accepted, and they were not part of the Second Great Awakening. Even, that was an issue in 1960 with JFK's presidential election. Even with, I can't remember his name now. All right, emotional revivalism. Charles Grandison Finney is a name from this time period that you should know. He was a Presbyterian minister. Okay, free will and good works over predestination. So the Second Great Awakening rejected Calvinism's predestination and replaced it with this concept of, that you can go out into the world and make the world better. Perfectionism. That you should do good things. You should take your religious fervor and go out and join the temperance movement. Go out and join the abolitionist movement. Go out and, cure some evil in society, because human beings can perfect themselves, and then the ripple effect is perfecting society. Perfectionism. People can live without sin by choice, not inherent human sin. I just said that. I hate when I do that. Okay. The burned over district, yes, Sam? Yes. I guess, I wouldn't say that all Presbyterians, but those participating in the Second Great Awakening did. Yeah. Okay, so burned over district, Western New York, it was in this region that you start to see all of these religious revivals, all of these camp meetings, as well as communities being set up. Now, what do you notice is running through all this religiosity? The Erie Canal. That's the importance of transportation, even in religion, besides commerce, culture. All right, evangelism and social activism. This is sort of an anti-sin propaganda kind of poster, whereas basically you go to the right, you're good, you go to church, you are good to your parents, you're good to your neighbors, you go to heaven. You go to the left, you wind up drinking, smoking, killing, stealing, robbing, hellfire and brimstone. It's your choice. I mean it, guys. All right, temperance. All right, so temperance basically means to temper your use of alcohol. That was sort of the first step against alcohol. Encourage people through moral suasion to drink less, or to take the pledge of teetotalism, total abstinence, teetotalism. And teetotalers would sign at the end of their name T for teetotaler. And this is basically, you start off with the first drink and you wind up, robbery and suicide. And then all the while, this was in a DBQ actually, from a DBQ, on the bottom, who's suffering the most? Your family. Industrialized economy, you couldn't afford alcoholism, you couldn't afford the dangers, the accidents, the people coming late to work and whatnot. So in 1826, the American Temperance Society is formed. And in 1851, the infamous Maine Law. That was the total prohibition. That was the first example of prohibition of the manufacturing and sale of alcohol in a state. I feel sorry for the people in Maine. For other reasons. Okay, institutional reform. So again, you take that perfectionism, you take that religious fervor, change the world, right? So people like Dorothea Dix reforming mental institutions, people who were in mental institutions or asylums were considered evil. They were considered like that Avatar poster. Anyway, okay, that's a bad joke. All right, I'm getting tired. All right, so she transforms the idea that people who are mentally ill, it's a sickness. It's not their fault. They're not possessed by the devil, and they deserve care, not to live in a cage like this for most of their life, or naked on a wet floor. Excuse me. If you have questions, raise your hand. Go for it. Do you have a question? Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. What time period is
this? This is the 1830s, 40s, 50s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, all this time period. All right. Also the penitentiary system. But the penitentiary system was the concept of let's not throw children in with hardened criminals. Let's not just throw people in the old English style, throw them in the cell, throw away the key. Let's actually put them in an environment where they can reform. The problem is a lot of the reforms, like Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania, was solitary confinement with total human interaction deprivation as well as total sound deprivation, and it made the inmates go insane. And the punishments for those who started screaming because they were going insane were things like a contraption that it was put in your mouth, and if you screamed, your tongue would raise, and the razor blade that was in it would cut your tongue and bleed to death. So, or if you screamed and went crazy, you would be chained outside in the cold Pennsylvania winter and naked and thrown water on. So it wasn't necessary, and it was like a military kind of life. But nevertheless, the intentions were good, the reality was bad, yeah. Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. I love those haunted shows. That place is freaking haunted. All right, sorry. Okay. Educational reform, Horace Mann. Education is the great equalizer. The concept that public education rules, then everybody has an equal chance, whether you're a silver spoon kid or whether you were born the children of immigrants. Okay? All right. So here you start to see the women's rights movement heating up, combating the cult of domesticity. Women saying, we want to be more than housewives. Some educational opportunities are opening to us, but what does that do for us if we can only churn out babies, you know? And so women's rights movement, the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, a must-know event, and they passed the Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions, but ironically, I think there were 12 or 14 resolutions, and all of them passed pretty much unanimously, except for the one for women's suffrage. Even women's rights advocates at this time were not fully sure that women should have the right to vote. It was perceived that the female brain was not equipped to handle political ideas or higher education. And so to actually give women higher education, to give them the right to vote, would actually derange them, and they have no business in politics. They belong in the cult of domesticity. All right, Emma Willard, Troy Female Seminary, 1821. You also have Mount Holyoke opening up at this time. A little bit of higher education opening up towards women. Abolitionism heating up at this time period. Big time. You get people like Frederick Douglass, African-American former slave, writes an autobiography, publicizes what his life was like as a slave. He goes and speaks for the American Anti-Slavery Society, and is a lifelong activist. Actually winds up with a position in as the Haitian ambassador under the Lincoln administration. William Lloyd Garrison, the Liberator, a must-know, 1831, publishes the first issue of the Liberator. And this is one of the early events that starts to make the South turn away from apologizing for their peculiar institution of slavery towards defending it as a positive good. This is the guy that says, I will not equivocate, I will not retreat a single inch, and I am right. And he called the Constitution a compact with Satan because it had slavery built into it and the Three-Fifths Compromise, fugitive slave law, other things. So abolitionism is heating up, yeah.
What date is that?
What was that? Date is this?
Yeah.
The Liberator, 1831. First episode, or not episode, television. First issue. All right, new